Welcome back to The Line. Civil rights groups say that since 2012, the New Mexico Taxation and Rev Department has had a policy of withholding tax refunds from immigrants who use a federally issued individual tax identification number, or ITIN as it's known. These numbers are issued to people who are not U.S. citizens or nationals and are not eligible for Social Security numbers. Now, last year, the Mexican American Legal Defense Fund and Somos Un Pueblo Unido filed lawsuits claiming the state's policy wrongly withholds refunds from immigrants who use those ITINs. The federal government, however, has continued to issue those refunds to those same immigrants. Now, Marcia, these groups are asking a judge to release those tax overpayments and halt the policy of withholding these things. Let's back up here a quick second. Let's talk about right and wrong. Someone's here, they're earning, they're filing, they've contacted the federal government has contacted them with an ID number. What's the problem here?
I don't think there is. The problem is that their wages are being held. I mean, this is just a clear example of wage theft from the state. We have people that have worked hard, they're paying their taxes, and because they belong to a very specific population, a very specific community, their wages are being held. And the fact that they're holding these wages because they have questions, they may have concerns, there hasn't been any evidence of criminal activity, and yet their funds are still being held.
Meaning, but it has not turned up anything by withholding these funds. It hasn't.
Right.
Yeah,
but I have to step in. You don't mean
Please.
wages. You do mean taxes.
But these are taxes that they're paying on money that they've earned.
But they're not. I mean, it's a misnomer to say that they're withholding wages. I think that's unfair. It is taxes, and whether it's due or not, but it's not their wages.
Fair enough.
Right, and I understand that, but at the same time, these are taxes that they're paying on wages that they've earned. They've worked very hard for their money, and there's no other group that's being withheld this money. And so that's what I think is truly the problem, is that there is a community that is being singled out.
Right. Tom, what do you think's trying to be solved here? What is the state trying to do here exactly? Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, I'll go there. There is when you look at the driver's license issue coming back year after year after year, thankfully we will not have to deal with it again. I think that there's just a desire by the administration to send a particular message that if you are an immigrant, then we're going to make it as difficult as possible for you to be here in New Mexico. And that's sad, because I think when we look at the national conversation, there's a lack of compassion that's taking place on both sides of the aisle. Both have very different targets. One target is, well, we won't get into the targets, but I think that overall there's a lack of compassion of how are we going to help the people who are here, resident, non-resident, whether you're born here, raised here, moved in here from somewhere else. That's missing, and that bothers me.
Janice, I ask again, what's the state trying to solve here? What's the problem?
I'm struggling to answer that, but I'll give you a couple of things that may come up. One is identity theft. That I think that they are sincerely concerned about that, and even though you may have a federal ID number, oftentimes Social Security numbers are also used, and if a false false Social Security number is being offered, okay, you have a right to look at that. What is not apparent to me is the speedy deliberation of the tax department when this comes up. I have no idea how many. But we do know, and if you haven't gotten the call from the IRS recently saying you are bad and you owe taxes, that would be a legitimate reason to say, no, wait a minute, we need to look at this carefully. But I don't have anything to support that other than, okay, so here may be a reason. I don't disagree with you that if somebody has legitimately paid their taxes and it's due back, then the process should be speedy and it should be returned.
I'm going to go back to the federal ID thing, Russell, because I got to think for a lot of folks that would settle the issue. Someone's taking a step towards the federal government and the government's taking a step back, so there's that natural meeting in the middle. And that would be good enough in some folks' point of view. Now, why is it that why can we not say, okay, someone's trying here, to Tom's compassion point, let's take a step towards them and find a way to solve this? Our state government seems to be very dug in on this one, it seems to me.
In many ways, it's the national immigration debate being localized here in Mexico.
Okay.
We don't have, it was fostered with the Real ID debate. Now we're in this wage taxation discussion. We don't have a lot of undocumented immigrants here. In this case here, is the only thing that keeps the debate alive in New Mexico.
Gotcha.
I don't know if that's intentional. I don't know if it's something that has been planned, but that's what's keeping us alive, that debate here. Even though we're around wages and taxation, I don't think it still transcends other things that go on, how this state deals with the undocumented, our compassion.
Right.
You can still be a dreamer here and go to state for in-state tuition. You can still have access to the lottery scholarship if you're undocumented. So in many ways, this still is a pleasant place if you are undocumented to live. The problem is that our wages are so low, you're not going to come here from Chihuahua or down in Chiapas to risk your life to work in New Mexico. You're going somewhere more lucrative. But those who stay here are going to face this one obstacle. And this is where I think immigrant groups and the state government can collide and have this still debate about immigration. Because anything else is almost irrelevant.
Right, interesting. I'm going to stay with you on another subject too, but related. You wrote an interesting piece this week about the issue at the border with folks who were being sent back across the border, not being able to get their personal property back. And that includes money, cell phones with contact information, all the important things that we take for granted in our lives every day. Suddenly you're kicked back across the border with nothing? What did you find in your reporting on this?
We talked to lawyers who came up with at least 26 cases and incidents where someone was detained at the border. They were brought in, and their possessions were taken, either it's money, life savings, cell phone, and deported to places like Ciudad Juarez where they didn't know anybody. Wow. Now, this is an Obama administration initiative, not the state government. And what these lawyers are arguing is that this practice has been going on for years, and this is now trying to stop it. In fact, civil rights groups in Mexico have been saying this has been going on for years, and they banded together and said, well, they filed an administrative complaint saying now it's time to end. And this comes up as there were other complaints in California, and there's going to be more. This is a narrative that has happened in the Obama administration, a Democratic president, that immigrant rights groups have said, well, we voted for you, but in fact, these policies are more draconian than the Bush administration. And I think this is what I think happened with the Real ID debate is there was no discussion like, hey, this has been forced on us on Obama, right? It was all Martinez versus the immigrant rights groups, and he kind of got a free pass on this.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Janice, pick up on that. The compassion issue is certainly in this subject too. Yeah.
Well, absolutely, and in thinking about this, so I do want to segue. As we talk about this, we never talk about employers who are acting illegally, and we never talk about how tax and revenue is following up.
Sure.
But theft is theft.
Yeah.
I do not want our government stealing from us. I have a problem with the civil forfeiture rules, and to me, this is the same as civil forfeiture, except this is just out and out theft. And how, you have to be consistent across the world. You have to be consistent with your people in your country. You have to be consistent with the people that you are asking to leave if you expect the rest of the world to see us as a consistent democracy.
You're here. I love that. Your thoughts on this one, Marcia? Because again, the idea of being dumped out in Juarez with no phone, no money, no ID, no nothing. It's cruel.
It is.
Come on now.
And the other thing too is that you're not just being dumped out with no information, no money, no means of contacting anyone that you know, but you're also being put into a place that is highly dangerous without knowing anybody. And it's not like there's a great time for any of this to ever happen. It could happen at 5 a.m. It could happen at midnight. We don't know when this is happening. We don't know if it's a group of all adults or if there's a group of children. I think the compassion portion is true. But when talking about our government needs to work across the board in the same way, I think that also comes back to state government and local government. Withholding these taxes on people are paying taxes on wages that they've earned, that they've worked hard for. They need to get that back. So I think that if we're going to be fair, we've got to be fair across the board.
Department of Homeland Security, Tom, is on this issue of property. And they've had some quotes out there saying, look, we have 30 days. If nobody comes and get it, we just throw it out. There's something a little missing there because obviously people in this circumstance are not exactly just driving up and going, hey, get my stuff. You know what I mean? There's a process that needs to be put in place.
Yeah.
And it seems that DHS is dragging the heels just a little bit here on this. It almost seems as if they just don't want to deal with it from the quotes I read.
Well, I think that's reflective of what we've seen with President Obama and the Obama administration is that they just don't want to deal with immigration, period. And, so it's almost as if they, turn their eyes. Because, at first they said, first 100 days we're going to address the issue of immigration. Well, now we're nearing the end of the second term of the
last
president,
100 days are coming.
and and it's still nothing is happening.
Yeah,
and
that's
so I think
interesting.
it's just a reflection of their national policy and approach.
This week, Albuquerque hosts the Community Schools National Forum. It's bringing together 1,700 participants from around the country and abroad to talk about creating schools that work with local partners and families to address the many challenges facing students today. It's a movement that is growing around the country and here in New Mexico. Correspondent Megan Karamick looks at why this model is sparking hope for improving educational outcomes.